Hi teens, this week's Midweek Meditation is entitled Reality Check, America is Changing. How should Christians respond? As candidate for president, Donald Trump said that he wanted to, quote, drain the swamp in Washington. During the past 3 years, many things have been exposed, such as corruption, treason, dishonesty, buying votes, committee chairmanships for sale, sex abuse, and much more. I'm not saying that the current administration is squeaky clean. What we want you to know is that as bad as these things are, there's much more going on that threatens the true Church of Christ in America and across the world. This midweek meditation is a bit unusual. We're going to look at one passage that describes the last days, and I think you'll find, indeed, it's very descriptive of the times in which we live now. We're going to look at some examples of threats from within the church and outside the church. And finally, we're going to consider how we should respond. None of the things that we'll share catches God by surprise. He's in total control of all things for His purposes. But I want you to keep in mind that if the Lord tarries, this changing America is where you will live and raise your family. Here's the passage, 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. And from such people turn away. Again, 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 5. John MacArthur and other commentators state that the word men in this verse, this passage, refers to false teachers in the church. Certainly unbelievers share many of these characteristics as well. But we want to look, first of all, at false teachers. Many of you are familiar with the name Joel Osteen. He is the pastor of one of the largest churches in the world, and he has written many, many books under the title or heading or label of prosperity theology. One of them is The Power of I Am, and I'll offer you 3 quotes from his book. He states, whatever follows the I Am will eventually find you. The good news is you get to choose what follows the I Am. Be as bold as David was and say, I am amazing, I am wonderful, I am valuable. And I want to turn and read what is in the gray block. You may not be able to see it, but it's very important. Osteen states this, I declare unexpected blessings are coming my way. I will move forward from barely making it to having more than enough. God will open up supernatural doors for me. He will speak to the right people about me. I will see Ephesians 3:20 exceedingly, abundantly, above and beyond favor, and increase in my life. This is my declaration. Joel Osteen and people like him are threats from within by professing Christians and false teachers. What about threats from without? I've selected just 4 of innumerable headlines about persecution of Christians. Christians are alarming trend worldwide as China builds blueprint for persecution. World Watch List 2020 states 260 million Christians face extreme, very high, or high persecution. Christian persecution at near genocide levels. And finally, persecuted Christians are not given much hope in 2020. The threat from without organizations like undojesus.org, they have on that site, quote, marching with this sign is an act of love for Christians. It is wrong to let people believe the idiocy of a man claiming he is a God that created himself as his only son, and if you don't believe him, he'll send you to a non-existing afterlife where you will burn for eternity. And if you look at the sign that one of them's holding states, if Jesus returns, kill him again. The other sign a little farther back says, religion is mind fraud. Darwin Bedford calls himself the atheist messiah. He says undojesus.org is specific in opposing Christian influence and control within social context. There were some t-shirts, young people, so vulgar and blasphemous that I could not show them. There are over 200 websites that are militantly atheist. These are just 4 of the shirts that he has on his site. The first one, I'm causing people to go to hell. Ask me how. Secondly, it's wrong to let them believe. Not respectful. Thirdly, everything said in the context of God being real is mere nonsense. And finally, I love Jesus dead. Blasphemy. I give you 3 objectives that they have on their site. They've got many, but I just selected these 3. To hold the church accountable for wrongdoings. How are they going to do that? To eliminate tax relief provided to the church. That certainly will add a burden to ministries. And finally, and frighteningly, to save individuals from grief and misery resulting from their acceptance of false information. And again, this is just 3 of the many objectives on their site. And notice the signs that they have: only sheep need a shepherd. And then finally, theology is a myth stake. Also on that site, they have this poster of Santa Claus, and it says, "Dear children, one day you will learn everything about Santa Claus. On that day, remember everything the adults have told you about Jesus." In other words, he's a myth. He's superstition. He's just fun and games. And then I'll not get into the details of this other book, but it was published in 2011. The title of it is Jesus, Potter, Harry, Christ. It compares Jesus Christ with Harry Potter. Blasphemy, threats from without. America faces an epic choice in the coming year, and the results will define the country for a generation, and I might add, or more. These are perilous times. Over the last 3 years, much of what The Guardian holds dear has been threatened. Democracy, civility, truth. The Guardian is an independent news organization. And when it comes to democracy, civility, and truth, this is what they state. Democracy changing to democratic socialism. And from the website Teen Vogue, notice this quote: 51% of Americans age 18 to 29 have a positive opinion of socialism. If 51% of Americans age 18 to 29 have a positive opinion of socialism going forward, that probably is only going to increase. What about civility? There's a push to abolish police departments. God's word in Matthew 24:12 states, "And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold." And finally, what about truth? The news over the past 3 or more years has been polluted with misinformation and lies. People simply do not know who or what to believe. And I think most frighteningly is this excerpt from an article on abortion. It's titled "After-Birth Abortion, Why Should the Baby Live?" And it's from an article by 2 pro-abortionists on the Journal of Medical Ethics site, and that's significant. They state abortion is largely accepted even for reasons that do not have anything to do with the fetus's health, by showing that 1, both fetuses and newborns do not have the same moral status as actual persons. 2, the fact that both are potential persons is morally irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And 3, adoption is not always in the best interest of actual people. The authors argue that what we call, quote, after-birth abortion, killing a newborn, should be permissible in all the cases where abortion is, including cases where the newborn is not disabled. That is a frightening thing, to go from early pregnancy abortions way back in the day to now seriously considering post-birth abortions. How should we respond to these things? First thing is glorify. Acknowledge that God is sovereign by praying, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Young people, we need not only pray for America, we need to pray for the world. Secondly, fortify. Be in the Word and know your convictions, asking God to enable you to remain true no matter what. You need to know what you believe and be willing to stand for your convictions. Thirdly, testify. Be salt and light as you live out loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. They need to see the difference that Jesus Christ makes in a life. 2 more. Qualify. If you can vote, select those individuals who give more than lip service to the First Amendment and who value all life, including the unborn at any stage of development. Young people, I doubt that you're ever going to find a perfect candidate. And the best thing you can do, instead of staying home, is select that candidate that gives some demonstration that they honor the First Amendment and they value all life. And then finally, exemplify. Be an example of what it means to be a law-abiding citizen in every area that does not violate biblical principle. These are serious and sobering times in which we live, and you as a teen need to be praying fervently for the country in which you live and the world in which you live. In closing, do right and finish strong.